Hi, this is Shelly, and in this particular video we will cover how to install a collection manager. This basically is going to be a PowerPoint presentation with live demo as we go through these slides. Collection manager is a part of the service control solution and is responsible for collecting information from various SCEs, which then further is used to generate reports and graphs. System requirements for the collection manager are that it can run on a SunSpark 64-bit machine which runs Solaris 9 or 10, can be an Intel-based 32 or 64-bit hardware running 32-bit Red Hat Enterprise Linux 4.0 or 32 or 64-bit Red Hat Enterprise Linux 5.0 or CentOS 5.x. Lately, we have introduced support on VMware Server or VMware ESXi 4.0, on top of which you can have Red Hat Linux or CentOS running, on which we can have the collection manager as well. Cisco UCS server model R2010 212.1605 with an Intel Xeon 5570 processor is also used to host the collection manager software. Now, it is important to note that the CM must run on its own machine, and you cannot have any other application run on this particular machine. The system requirements for Solaris is a minimum of 500 MHz CPU, minimum of 1 GB RAM per CPU. For hard drive, we need at least 18 gigs to install Sybase. We need another additional 8 gigs for the collection manager and another 3 gigs for the Sybase home directory. 18 gigs is for the Sybase database. For software, we need at least a Solaris version 5.9 64-bit build or later. Currently, only Solaris version 5.9, 5.10 are supported. Moving on to the next slide. The system requirements for Linux is again a hardware minimum requirements of 800 MHz CPU, 1 gig of RAM per CPU. The hard drive requirements are again the same: 18 gigs for Sybase database, 8 gigs for this collection manager, and 3 gigs for the Sybase home directory. It says reserve at least 1 gig on the same partition, but I'd rather be safe and hold about 3 gigs. Software, we need Red Hat Linux 4, 32-bit with the packages listed here, or Red Hat Linux 5 with the following packages. Moving on to the next slide, CentOS requirements are again pretty much similar to Red Hat: 800 MHz CPU, gig of RAM, 18 gig hard drive for Sybase database, again 8 gigs for collection manager and 3 gigs for Sybase home directory. Software Linux, software environment, CentOS Linux 5.0 with the following packages. Of course, any hardware that you run, you do need a fast Ethernet interface. So basically, these are the sections we are going to cover while installing the CM solution. We will initially get the CM software from CCO, concatenate it and extract it in the server. We will check prerequisites, make sure the prerequisites are met. Installing Sybase, which is a bundle solution. You can actually use MySQL or Oracle as well. In that case, MySQL or Oracle need to be installed before installing the collection manager. Then we will go ahead and install the collection manager. After that, we will start the CM solution. That is, we will start the database, and then we will start the collection manager. We will talk about a little bit of database management, where we will run periodic delete to make sure that the database does not get full. These are pretty much cron jobs that can be run on the servers to help keep the database in a healthy state. Then we're going to go ahead and attach the CM solution to the SCAB and the SCE, completing the CM solution. One thing you need to note is that you need to be the root user to install the CM solution. All right, the first step is to log into CCO using your CCO username and password and download the relevant package. They will be in multiple parts, usually 5. You place the downloaded files into the target machine and join them into a single tar file. The command for that is cat cm part 1 part 2. Basically cat and then to which file and folder directory you want to put that file to. Here's an example. After you have extracted the tarball, the first thing that you will see is a check prerequisite script under the install scripts directory. We need to run that to make sure that we have all the required hardware and software in place for installing the Sybase and Collection Manager. Moving to the server, I have here a Red Hat Linux 5.3. I actually went ahead and already downloaded and combined the files downloaded into a tarball and extracted them as well. I extracted the tarball to this user/dem folder. Going to the install scripts folder, we will see there's check prerequisites script. We need to run this script. Also, to note, I'm going to make a typo just to show you that it actually tells you what all features are we testing using this script. Like I said earlier, Sybase home and CM home directory should not exist and data directory should exist. We need to go ahead and make a data directory for Sybase database. Now I'll go ahead and run the check prerequisites script. This is going to run the check. It is fine for you to see the Sybase in the CM directory as they don't exist and they should not exist as well. For Sybase data, we require 18 gigs, which is available. We see a failure here as well. It says 14.2.3.248 is not resolvable. We need to go ahead and edit the /etc/host file to make sure that we have the IP address of the PC listed in the /etc/hosts. Now if you run the scripts, we will actually go ahead and have a success on the IP addresses as well. Perfect. We're ready to go ahead and install the Sybase database, and then we go ahead and install the Collection Manager. Moving back to the presentation. Now for installing Sybase, the Collection Manager bundle comes with Sybase as a bundles database. This can be very easily installed by running the install Sybase script. Sybase home requires at least 1 gig of free space. Data directory requires at least 15. Going back to the server, we have a Sybase directory. Go to Sybase. We have installed Sybase here. Go ahead and give the command with Sybase home and data directory where they should exist, and it will walk us through the installation. If in case there is a failure, the commands that we need to run are right here. We should not install Collection Manager before installing Sybase. So here we go ahead and enter the size and 2K blocks of the file to be used for the database. Alright, Sybase is now installed. We will go ahead and run the last step of creating a password for the Sybase user. For now, we'll give it Cisco 123. Moving back to the presentation. The next step after installing Sybase is to install the collection manager. This is fairly a very fast procedure, does not take a lot of time. You go ahead and change the directory to install scripts, and in there you will find the install CM script. You go ahead and install the CM into a specific directory that we are going to assign. That is the CM home. Under /opt, we have a directory that we will create for this collection manager. During the install procedure, the script will ask if we want to enable rag adapter. We'll go ahead and select no. We can always change it later on. After the script finishes, we'll give a password to the SCM user that is created. All right, we'll go ahead and install the collection manager now. Go to the installed scripts folder. We see the install CM script second from top. We'll go ahead and run that. We will go ahead and put this installation under the OPT folder. Select no. All right, the installation is complete. We'll go ahead and give a password for the SCM user. All right, the CM is installed. Let's go back to the presentation. Upgrading the collection manager is a little easier. You can go ahead and download the collection manager software just like you would for doing a fresh install. You go ahead and change the directory to install scripts. So you go ahead and log in as the SCM user, stop the CM, log in as root, go to the install script folder, and then run the install -cm script with a -o extension. Once that is installed, you can log back in as the SCM user and start the CM server. So starting the CM solution, first we need to configure the database, and in this case we are using Sybase, so we are going to go ahead and configure the Sybase database. Wait for some time and then make sure that Sybase is active and there are no error messages. Once that is complete, we're going to configure the adapters. There are JDBC adapter, TA adapter, CSV adapter, and RAG adapter. All these adapters have different functions. More can be read in the collection manager user guide under the collection manager overview section. Next slide, we go ahead and start the CM, set the time zone, and defining a PRPC user that is going to be used to communicate with SCAB. Taking these steps one at a time, configuring the database, and then configuring adapters to use. We will go ahead and configure the database. The first step is to run the dbconf script as a root user. The dbconf script is under SCM scripts folder. It'll ask me what kind of database do I need to enable. I'll choose 3. Localhost is okay. Listening port is fine. Apricot instance is okay. SCAB username is pqbadmin. Password is going to be pqbadmin as well. We'll leave it at that. Do you want to test a DB connection? We can say yes. Do you want to re-enter DB connection configuration? Say no. Now we're going to go ahead and start the Sybase database. We'll wait for a few minutes. So let's go back to the server and log in as the SCM user. To start the CM, you go into the folder CM, bin, CM, start. All right, let's just run this script from here. The alive script. we will see that the status is okay. We can now go ahead and check if the database tables were created by the Sybase. And this is now going to go ahead and query the Sybase database and get the list of tables. And here we are. At this point in time, Sybase is running and the CM is running as well. There are a couple of other tasks to complete. Another critical step is to set the time zone for where the CM resides. We are logged in as the SCM user. We will go ahead and run the script jselect time zone. Me being in the Eastern time zone, I'll set it for 5 hours. As soon as I create this, we will actually see a database created, a table created in the database. And here we are. It'll actually show you the record in that database table. The time zone table is actually a hidden table, so you need to give the -a extension for all database tables. Like you can see, there is a conf setz offset table created. Now, once you have this table, that means that the time zone was actually set up. The next critical step is to define the PRPC user. This will be used for performing actions on the collection manager from the SCAB console, the GUI. So we will go ahead and run that script here, and this will be the last step for setting up the CM with Sybase database. We go ahead and run this command. We have successfully installed the collection manager Sybase and are ready to introduce this collection manager to the SCAB console. A couple of things I would like to talk about at this point in time. So if I go to the home directory for the SCM user, we'll go ahead and see there are folders CM, dbmaint, doc, script, setup, and unsupported. Let's go. In the unsupported folder, you will have another folder, get info. It will have two scripts, get CM info and get support file. If you'd like to generate a support file, you need to run the get support file script. Basically, if you just say get support file.sh, it's going to go ahead and create a support file. The get CM info script actually is a part of the support file, and running get CM info gives you a lot of information. As you can see, the get CM info throws out quite a lot of information regarding the state of the machine, the state of CM, the state of database. This is very important at times for just basic knowledge of what the CM is and what it is doing. Now that we have the collection manager and the Sybase database started, we will go ahead and run some maintenance steps, primarily to maintain the database. On the database, we usually go ahead and run a periodic delete script, which will run in the background cron jobs and is going to check every table and delete records after a certain amount of time that we need to specify. To enable periodic delete, we will go ahead and run the create periodic delete processes script and then go ahead and enable it. Let's go ahead and take a look how that works. To activate periodic delete, you need to be in the SCM user or the CM user. Once you're logged in to the SCM user, you will see a dbmaint folder. Under the dbmaint folder, you will have the create periodic.proc script. We need to go ahead and run that. So we go ahead and run that, and it automatically is going to create a periodic delete procedure for each table. If you'd like to change the data retention settings, the settings are placed in the dbperiodic.conf script, which will be in the same folder. Running the more DB periodic conf, you can see that we have different types of tables, and we're keeping data worth 30 days and data worth 16 days, and it actually can be kept to a specific hour and minute as well, and all these settings can be changed. If you'd like to know more details, please consult the user guide. This particular process only creates the data retention settings. We need to go ahead and activate the periodic delete. Right now we're in the DB main folder. We need to go back out to the scripts folder. Over here we will see dbperiodic.sh. That's the one that we need to go ahead and load by giving the command db periodic -- load. This will go ahead and load the cron jobs into the system, and we will be able to delete automatically data. As you can see that the DB periodic has loaded and a couple of tables were not found, which is okay. For advanced information, see the Managing the Periodic Deletion of All Records section in the Managing Database and Comma Separated Value Repository chapter of the Collection Manager User Guide. There are far more options available. Moving forward, now we need to go ahead and attach the Collection Manager and the database to the SCAB. We go ahead and open SCAB and go to the Network Navigator. All right, so here we are. This particular demo is going to show you how to attach the Collection Manager and the database to the SCAB. So first of all, we go ahead and click on Network Navigator. If we don't see the Network Navigator on the top bar, we go ahead and click on Tools and Network Navigator. Then you go ahead and right-click Default Site, click on New, and then CM. Go ahead and punch in the IP address and name the device CM1. Now, when we go ahead and right-click Online Status, we are going to give the PRPC username password, not the SCM username password. Here we are. You see the Collection Manager is active. The adapter is active. Our TA adapter, CSV, and JDBC adapter version is 365, and the RDR rate is 0. Now, time to go ahead and install a database. Right-click New, Database. If you're installing Sybase, it's fairly simple. Go ahead and punch in the address, leave the advanced settings as is. The username and password here are pqbadmin. Pqbadmin is what we chose when we enabled the database. This is where we, if we have changed the username and password over there, while during that process we need to make sure that we make that change here as well. So in our case, we did not make that change. Our username and password are pqbadmin. We're going to just go ahead and click Finish. I'm going to right-click and click on Add to Reporter. This is going to go ahead and add an entry into the Reporter template. Another way to get to this is under Preferences, Reporter, Databases. Gets you the same. In this case, we have to go ahead and manually add the database. We just choose Simple for now. Database IP is the same. Click Activate this database if it is not already. Click Finish. At this time, I believe Test Active Database should be a fail because the IP address of the SCE for policy data is not there in SCAB at this time. So this step will fail, hence the rest of the steps are skipped. Going back, click OK. Another way to test the database is click on Help and check reporter conditions. It's going to bring out the same window. Again, at this time it says IP of SCE for policy data is not set. The way to set it is pretty simple. You go ahead and open Service Configuration Editor. If you have a configuration already, then you need to open one. If you don't, you can either click Yes, or go to Network Navigator and go to the SCE to retrieve a policy. We go ahead and retrieve the policy from the SCE 2020. So we go ahead now, move to the next slide. We need to put the RDR formatter destination statements. These RDR formatter statements go to the SCE. Let's go to the SCE and put these statements in. So we're already here into the SCE 2020. I did a show run just to make sure that we do not have any RDR formatter statements. We will go ahead and put these statements in. These statements go under the global config mode. Port 33,000 is native. It remains the port that the collection manager is listening on for RDRs. And there are 4 categories, out of which all categories have different types of RDRs attached to them. We usually go ahead and define category 1 through 3. Category 4 is special. It is actually linked to the loopback IP, the 127.0.0.1, which is usually meant for CODA RDRs. We give the same command, this time for category number 2 and for 3. Now RDRs can be load balanced to multiple CMs as well. There are many other features for load balancing. Again, I would refer you back to the Collection Manager user guide to see how RDRs can be sent to multiple locations. We go ahead and come out of the SCE. We copy the running config to startup config. This is the only way we save the configs on the SCE. Once done, let's move back to the SCAB. Now, once in SCAB, we will go ahead and apply the policy. Once we retrieve the policy, we'll go ahead and apply it back on just as is. But this time you will see in the console at the bottom that a collection manager is also being updated. All right, like we can see that we're automatically updating the collection manager with the service configuration values. Now, this particular action, what it does is it creates a new table called ini_values, ini values, and it stores the SCE IP address as a part of the table. Now, that particular IP address is then retrieved by SCAB, and that is where the conditions for the IP of SCE for policy data are met. You'll still see that the IP for SCE policy data is not there. How do we see it again is if you go to Preferences, if you go to Reporter, we go to Template, and over here we do not see the IP address. How to get it is fairly simple. Once we have applied the config from the SCE to the collection manager and the SCE, we just go ahead and shut down SCAB and bring it back up. All right, we're back. SCAB is up. It's asking if we need to open a new service configuration. So we already have an SCE. We can retrieve that service configuration. We click on No. We go to Network Navigator. We right-click on the SCE. We retrieve the service configuration. All right, we will now go ahead and test if our conditions are met, reporter conditions. And we go ahead and see that we have all conditions met. Now, if we go back and look at the IP address of the policy data, the IP address of SCE, and for policy data, we go ahead and see that it actually is there. Where this comes into play is basically if you go to the reporter tool, if you go to tools, reporter, if we go ahead and select, let us say, for example, average subscriber bandwidth report, we double click. So it's going to ask us the IP address of the SCE. This is where that particular IP, or the IP of the SCE, is pulled from. So we select the SCE and then click OK. So this particular SCE does not have any traffic, hence the report is blank, but the database is listening and this particular setup is working. At this point, we are pretty much done with our demo. We already checked the report conditions. We verified the SCAB IP of SCE is in the reporter. Thank you very much. Have a good day.